Is the Phenom 2X2 550 still good in 2020? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at today. Starting off, our GPU today will be a GT 1030. We are going to have quite a bit of variety of games and some more stuff, including a quick little Cinebench run that I'll have at the beginning of the video. I will also, past all of these games, be including a bit of ray tracing with Minecraft RTX. That is going to be towards the end of the video. That is going to be on the 2070, not the GT 1030, as that unfortunately cannot ray trace. So, if you guys do want to go ahead and skip ahead to any of these games, you're interested in one, you're interested in two, you just want to see the ray tracing on the Phenom, feel free to go and look at the timestamps down below. Anyways guys, it's an okay CPU, alright? And quick little hardware breakdown. Of course, we got our Phenom, we got our GT 1030, our motherboard's going to be the Asus M5 A97 R2.0, and we'll have 16 gigs of RAM in dual channel at 1600 MHz. Anyways, first off, on the left side you're going to see here is our stock clock, which is at 3.1 GHz. That is the same thing with the Northbridge at stock and the Hypertransport at stock. And our final score down below. And on the right side you'll see what we'll be using today, which is the overclock. Now this is a chip that can overclock via the multiplier, so I went ahead and did that. And I raised it up to 3.7 GHz. Another thing that also overclocked is the Northbridge has been increased by 200 MHz. And the Hypertransport up by another 200 MHz as well, so that's also giving us a tiny bit of another boost they can do. Also, fun fact, this is technically a quad-core, it just has two cores locked down to be a dual-core. Though if you have a board that can actually unlock it, unfortunately this board does not seem to support it, though I have an MSI board that's also a 970 board that can. So, listen, if you have one of these chips, you got a board that can unlock it, it might be stable, it might not, you could turn it into a quad-core, and I'll probably do that later on another video. I've done it in the past, and I might do it again. Anyways guys, just a quick little thing right here, we have Valorant, look at that! The GT 1030, unfortunately, is being held back, even in a game like Valorant. It's unfortunately maxing out our CPU there, so not too much headroom left for the GPU, but it's still a playable experience. There was an occasional freeze that occurred, and I'm not sure what was causing that. I did try a different GPU, I did try reinstalling the drivers, but for some reason Valorant kept freezing in some weird way. So I'm not sure what was causing that. Might have been the Phenom, might have been just an issue. I've seen it on higher end rigs, especially on Reddit, people have complained about it before, so it could be a software issue, or it could be the hardware. I wasn't too sure about that. Anyways, moving on to our most requested game, the game that everyone wants to see, the game that everyone always talks about, to this day, after all this time, Fortnite. And how will this Fortnite run? Well, again, we're doing the 1080p, we're doing the low settings, and we're doing a very crazy environment, I guess you could say. We're doing Team Rumbles, we're in one of the final areas for Team Rumbles, and it's pretty hectic. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of building, so it's a great scenario to see when the CPU is heavily stressed, how it actually performs, and it's still playable. Now I will say, if you're outside of an area that's actually very busy, you know, there's not a lot of building going on, you just drop in some area far off or something else, you actually will be hitting between 50 to 60, and the performance is very good. But again, this is very manageable. Again, GPU's not hitting anything near 99%, still being held back even with the overclock unfortunately, and even a GT 1030, think about that, that's even being held back. That's somewhere in the ballpark of somewhere like a GTX 750 if you want another GPU for comparison. Oh, it might be a little faster or slower, I'm not sure nowadays. But somewhere in that ballpark. Anyways, so as I was saying, yeah, Fortnite's manageable, you could get away with it. Moving on to a game that has been requested quite heavily that I'm going to be including now in all future videos, including starting from this one right now. We have Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm going to be starting off with the benchmark right here. Yeah, and overall, how well did it play? It's doing an alright job. Look at that. The frame rate's not bad. It's not terrible. Again, this is just the benchmark, so I'm showing you a bit of a comparison. You can use this compared to your system for this part of the benchmark. So there you go. I will shortly be rolling over to actual gameplay from inside the game, outside the benchmark, to show you how it actually runs when you're just on foot, when you're just walking around the game world, and the experience you might have, which is what you're seeing right now. Yeah, look at that. It's not bad. Again, not perfect, not the greatest thing ever, but I could play it. I used to play GTA 5 on 360, and I could fairly manage this well. Wasn't the worst experience, wasn't the best experience. So if you're somebody that has a Phenom, you have a okay GPU, you know, not something super low like a ancient Radeon card or something else, you can run it. Also, I just realized now while reviewing the footage and after editing that we were playing in DirectX 11 mode. DirectX 10 mode will most likely give you a performance boost, which I'll be changing to actually the future videos. Didn't catch that until right now. So even DirectX 11 mode, it's actually fairly good. And again, just showing you guys when we drop down the resolution down to 720p, if it really makes much of a difference, which, again, how much our GPU is being held back. unfortunately it doesn't. It's still hitting about the same frame rate or so. So it's a little unfortunate thing. You can't always lower the resolution too much because eventually your CPU is gonna say, hey, can't do it. I can't keep up with all those frames you're sending me. And that just happens. That's the way it is with these things. Anyways, moving on to another game. We have Civilization 6, a game that has a lot of stuff going on in the background. Your CPU is going to be doing a lot. And you can run on a Phenom. Thankfully, you can. Unlike a lot of other games. Due to a lack of newer CPU instruction sets, I believe the main one that has an issue with, I think, is SSE 4.0 or 4.1. That's missing on it, so unfortunately you can't actually run games like Apex Legends or Modern Warfare, which is unfortunate. Probably newer titles to come. There's not really much of a workaround for that, unfortunately. So it's not that it can't run those games like 10 FPS, it quite literally cannot run those games. So that is a big limitation on the CPU, so you're going to be sticking to some older stuff or some newer games that don't take advantage of those instruction sets. In our last game today, guys, just briefly showing you off Dead by Daylight. It's a very playable experience again. Again, not perfect, but nothing else. But you know what is a good experience? Putting an RTX 2070 with the Phenom, and then doing Minecraft RTX. I mean, look at this. Look at that. We're hitting like 60 FPS. Our GPU usage is pretty high. It's not that CPU intensive. You can do it. If someone asks you, what kind of a CPU do you need to run Minecraft RTX? You can do it on a Phenom X2 dual core. A Phenom dual core that has a minor overclock on it. There you go. So, in summary, what do I think of the card? Not the card, it's the CPU. They're not cards anymore. They used to be a long time ago. They used to be little slots. It's okay. It's definitely not that great in 2020. It's heavily limited in the games that can run. It's limited in its performance. I mean, we're holding back a GT 1030, so as you can see, it's got a quite limited. It's quite limited. There are certain scenarios, if you do own one, that you could run plenty of games still on it. If you can unlock it to a quad core and you have a motherboard, it still can be pretty viable as a Phenom quad core, but again, it's aged quite a bit and it has a ton of limitations. So that's that. Anyways, guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe. If you didn't, you don't have to do anything. You can dislike. You can do whatever you feel is best.